الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم وأنتم لا تشعرون. صلوات بجي محمد وعلى السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The ayat that I recited is from Surah Hujurat, verse number 2, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who have faith, do not raise your voices above the voice of the Holy Prophet, and do not speak aloud to him like you shout to one another, lest your works should fail without your being aware. Habte amal, in case you raised your voice over the voice of Rasulullah. Wa amal includes all of your actions. So that merely if a person raises their voice over the voice of Rasulullah, this ayat guarantees that their amal are null and void. Just imagine all those people who were present at the last moment when Rasulullah had asked, give me a pen and a paper so that I may aktub lakum, so I may write something for you by which you will not go astray. And what we saw was the reaction that people started questioning and quarreling and raising voices. And one of them amongst them said, Hasbuna kitabullah, the book of Allah is enough, we don't need anything. Innahu la yahjur, this man has his weakness and illness has overcome him to the extent that he's not able to focus, na'udhu billah, and not able to use his mind properly. And therefore the book of Allah is more than sufficient to us. And there was this commotion. Bukhari narrates this, Sahih Bukhari narrates this event, Muslim narrates this event, Hakim narrates this event. It's a known event, which is something which is known to have happened. Now, over the years, they have changed some of the words that were used by that individual. Instead of using the word la yahjur, hajara, they have changed the word so that it's less violable. Let's just put it that way. It's less, there's less tawheen in that word. But nonetheless, there was this commotion. To the extent that Prophet had to say what? Qumu indi. Stand up, get up and leave from me. I don't want this commotion over here. I'm sick. Yes, I'm leaving this world. I'm about to die. And the best you can do is shout and yell in my presence. So this ayat wasn't revealed at that time. This is the last moment of Rasulullah. This ayat had revealed way back. This was a practice of some people to shout in front of Rasulullah even before. So that Allah has to reveal that ayah to go ahead and tell people, don't do this. Not only that it is disrespectful towards Rasulullah, and it gives an example, like you shout to one another. You may shout to one another, which is still bad, but the way you speak to one another, you shouldn't do that with Rasulullah. Because if you do so, not only it's not recommended, but it's also going to go ahead and do what? Habte amal. It'll make your actions void. That you would not even realize that your actions are null and void. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to use ayat in Quran to tell the Muslimin of the time how to behave in front of Rasulullah. There was a time that people would come knocking on the door of Rasulullah. We have a question. Okay, Rasulullah would never turn anyone down. It wasn't like the ulama or the scholars or talib ilm like me that you knock the door at night time, I won't even respond. You call, I won't even return your phone call. No, Rasulullah and Masumin were not like that. People would come knocking on, they know where they live, they come knock on the door at any time of the day or night without the care for Rasulullah that he may be resting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed an ayah that don't just go ahead and knock on the door of Rasulullah whenever you feel like doing so. In fact, next time you have a question, فَقَدِّمُوا, go ahead and pay him before you go ahead and ask him a question. So everybody stayed back. Everybody refrained. This is from ayah from Surah Mujadala. Everybody refrained instead of, now that you have to pay money, and now you think twice before you ask your question. Except one person who obeyed this ayah, and that was Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. But the very next ayah was revealed, which is back-to-back ayat, which abrogated this command. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, go ahead and pay before you ask Rasulullah something. And then right away said in the very next ayah that it was difficult for you to do so. But the point was made clear. That don't just go knocking on the door whenever you feel like. Or when you're sitting with Rasulullah, ask your question and leave. They're just sitting there, hanging out. Rasulullah has other things to do. He's got wives to manage. He's got, children to manage. He's got, affairs of the country or the hukumat. He's got all of these responsibilities upon him. So let him be. So these ayat were revealed to sort of guide mankind at that time. But many of these ayat are in a tense where it still matters. Because the hurmat of Rasulullah is as if he was alive. When Mansur Dawaniqi enters the haram of Rasulullah and starts making dua out loud. Imam Malik was present over there. He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, because he's Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, La tarfa'u asfataka fawqa sawt al-Nabi. Don't raise your voice over the voice of Rasulullah. And this is, in there they have Amir al-Mu'mineen is different and Imam is different. So Imam Malik and Amir al-Mu'mineen are two different people, right? Whereas us, we believe the same person is Amir al-Mu'mineen and same person is Imam al-Muttaqeen. So there is no difference between Amir and Imam. But obviously, Imam Malik tells Amir al-Mu'mineen of the time, Mansur Dawaniqi, that don't raise your voice. He said, but Prophet is dead. What is it, raising the voice? No, he said no. His hurmat, as if he was alive, is similar to as if he is dead. So his hurmat and his, respect doesn't change. An ayat of Quran he recited. He recited this ayat of Quran from Surah Hujurat, telling him, this is how many years after the wafat of Rasulullah? At least, if you look at the time of Imam Malik, which is, in the time of our sixth Imam, at least 120 years after the wafat of Rasulullah. He's telling Mansur not to raise your voice over the voice of Rasulullah. أَن تَحْبَطَ أَعْمَالُكُمْ. So here we see that there are certain muqaddasat, holy things in Islam which have to be, given due respect. So people, regardless of their belief, respect and honor their ancestors. So whatever their beliefs may be, still they honor and they revere their deceased, especially if they had done something, especially if they were, scholars, for example, especially if they had made some sort of discovery, especially if they were founders of their faith or founders of their, countries or whatever. They go ahead and they respect them. Especially if the ancestors had done something special in their lifetime. They name cities, roads, universities, airports, schools, you name it. All of these institutions are named after them. In Islam too, there are many such personalities who are regarded very high and considered sacrosanct. In the city of Mecca, if you have visited, you'll find Madrasat al-Thanawiyya, Yazid ibn Muawiyah. There's a secondary school, high school if you want to call it, Madrasa Thanawiyya. How do we know this? Because the area that some of the pilgrims stay near Mina is called Aziziyah. And in there, Aziziyah, there's this madrasa. I've taken a picture of it myself. It's called Yazid ibn Muawiyah. So there's so many personalities in Islam. You go and name your madrasa after such an individual. So there we see. In Islam, the root of sanctity and honor, that you revere someone and you respect someone, their roots go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if someone is associated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way or form, aside from the fact that everyone is associated because Allah is Khaliq, no, but in terms of what Allah had commanded and these people are associated with Him, then that individual becomes holy as well. So the essence is the holy essence of Allah. The more this affiliation, the honorable an object or person would be, and therefore we must pay due respect to it. For example, Your house, my house, someone else's house, white house, brown house, whatever house, green house, different houses. And then there's a house of Allah. You were to go ahead and put all of the houses. My house is $2 million. So-and-so celebrity has a house, $35 million. White House, you don't have a price on it. There are different houses that exist in the world. And then there's a house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How would you prioritize these different houses? The fact that this house is associated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, masjid becomes top of every other house. And then Baytullah would obviously be on top of that list. So therefore you see how the fact that a small masjid built on the basis of taqwa, not so beautiful, as far as the decorations are concerned, but the fact that it is associated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can do things in that house while you can go ahead and do those things in your own house. You can't desecrate. You can't make this place najis. If it becomes najis, you have to clean it right away without delaying. Your house became najis, you say, I'll wash it later on. Yeah, you can do that. But if the sahan or the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes najis, you must go ahead and clean it right away. You can't desecrate it. You can't defame it. So that's how the association with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. So, inviolable in Islam, there are a few things, or a few persons, or if you begin with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That source of all sanctity is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Polytheists who associated partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mushrikeen, on the day of judgment, this is what they will be saying. They would be speaking to their imaginary idols, and they will say, إِذْ نُسَوِّيكُمْ بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. That when we equated you with the Lord of all the worlds. But it'll be too late. At that time, in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the day of judgment, they'll be speaking to their idols saying, we equated you with this Lord. How stupid were we that we were equating you, idols, with the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's a lot of talk about the glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tasbih of Allah, which means that God is impeccable and pure from any sort of deficiency. There is not a deficiency that you'll find in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only His essence is pure, His actions are pure, but His name is also glorified. That's why it says, Sabbih isma rabbikal a'la. Glorify the name of Allah who is a'la. Don't curse their false gods, otherwise they'll curse your God. We read in Quran, Surah An'am 108, وَلَا تَصُبُّوا الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَصُبُّوا اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Do not curse their idols, their imaginary gods. Don't curse them. Why? They'll curse your gods. Your God, rather. They'll return the favor by cursing your God. With what? Without knowledge. Just out of hostility. The fact that you have cursed theirs, they'll respond and they'll reciprocate. But they won't have any knowledge of what they're doing. They're just going to do it because the fact that they think that you have disrespected their God, so that I'm disrespecting your God. Don't do it. This actually trickles down to other areas as well. Don't disrespect their revered individuals. Because if you go ahead and disrespect their people whom they revere and honor, in return they'll go ahead and do the same to yours. And same thing, you bring it down to ourselves. Someone knows that my father, if a person knows that his father is an evil individual, he's done so many crimes openly, is fasiq and fajr. Still, if someone comes and says ill about my father, it'll make me feel bad. Because at the end of the day, he still is my father. Although all those things are true about him, but it still is going to hurt me. So I may return the favor and I'll go ahead and curse yours, even though your father doesn't have those things. So it trickles down to even that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, don't curse their gods, because they'll go ahead and curse yours. Second is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which has utmost reverence and sacred, is sacred, and sacrosanct that God Himself considers Quran to be great. What does He say? He says, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِي وَالْقُرْآنِ الْعَظِيمِ. That indeed we sent towards you 7 oft repeated verses and the Quran which is great. Quran which is azim. 3 attributes of Quran are mentioned. Quran al-Azim, Quran al-Kareem, Quran al-Majid. Azim being great, Kareem being noble, and Majid, as this ayat says, Qaf wal Quran al-Majid, glorious. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers this Quran to be glorious, considers it to be noble, considers it to be Azim, great. So when these things are associated with Quran, you and I should also. I think this is one area where we don't falter. This is one area where we do take care of Quran, right? We always respect it. I think more so in the Indian Pakistani culture than other cultures, because I've lived in other cultures. Not that they disrespect it, but the respect that you'll find in our culture is far more beyond. For example, you'll never see someone put another book on top of Quran. You'll never see someone put a Quran on the floor, although it may be a floor of masjid, but you'll never see them do that. Other things that you find in the similar way. But at the same time, we pay so much respect to Quran that we hardly open it. Just keep it high above top shelf so nobody touches it. Keep it away from children so that children don't, start flipping the pages and touch Quran when, they haven't done wudu, for example, because you can't touch Quran without wudu. And so all of those things. And therefore we see that Quran is given that due respect. I think the other mic is also on, maybe that turn that off. The echo is Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Is the other mic on? It may be on, maybe you have to turn that off. Because I hear the echo as well. There we go. So Quran is something which we do respect and we pay respect. So it is something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to respect. Number 3, I'll go through it very quickly as the list is long. And there's so many things that are holy in Islam and are considered holy in Islam. Number 3, God's emissaries. The prophets that Allah has sent. The messengers that He has sent. The ulul azm that He had sent. All of them, prophets and their true successors, especially our holy prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and his Ahlul Bayt alayhi wassalatu wassalam, who possess a very special place. In this Surah Hujurat, some of the manners and the etiquettes regarding prophets have been mentioned. First and the foremost, the ayat that I had recited, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tarfa'u aswatakum fawqa sawti an-nabi wa la tajhar ka jahri ba'dikum li ba'd. And do not speak to him, do not raise your voice, do not shout, and don't do this, don't do that, lest you will lose your amal. Your amal will be null and void. So do not venture ahead of Rasulullah, don't raise your voice over him, don't shout in his presence. Instead send salutations, because Allah and His angels and mu'mineen, they are sending salutations on the Holy Prophet. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. That Allah and the angels are sending it. O those who believe, Sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. You also go ahead and send salutations on the Holy Prophet as Allah and His angels are sending. So here you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses what? Present tense. Salla is past. Yusalli is present. Yusallun, which is the plural for yusalli, that Allah and the angels are sending. So when you're using, a lot of people, you're going to use the plural tense. So Allah is using what? Present tense. That means what? This salutation is continuous on the Holy Prophet. This salutation is continuous from the angels towards the Holy Prophet. And therefore, when your salutations are continuous onto Holy Prophet, then we believe in the existence and the wujud. Because you send salutations on someone who can respond to it. And our belief is that if you send salutations on the Holy Prophet, you will definitely get a response. So similarly, the honor and the respect of the successors, one way of showing respect is by following the commands. So one of the ways you show respect is how? We always mention their names with salawat afterwards. That's very good. So the name of Ma'asum comes, what do? The name of Rasulullah comes, what do? You send salawat, right? You send salawat. So that's one way of respecting it. For example, even fiqh says, aside from the ayat of Quran as an obligatory precaution, touching the name of Allah, which is, you can't touch without wudu, but as a precaution, the name of the Holy Prophet, as well as Aimma, without wudu is not permissible. So Quran, you can't touch ayat of Quran without wudu. That's understood. And then you can't touch the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it was outside of Quran. And as a precautionary measure, most of the fuqaha say, the name of Ma'sumin as well. So that's one way of respecting. But do you think that much respect is all that Allah and Nabi and the Aimma will be satisfied with? Oh Allah, I never touch your name without wudu. Oh Rasulullah, I never touch your name without wudu. Every time I said your name or I heard your name, I sent salutations onto you. I recited salawat right after I heard your name. Every time. In fact, when I wrote your name, I even wrote salawat. Rasulullah said, yeah, that's very good. But what would have been more important and the best way of showing your sincerity towards me and respect toward me, if you were to go ahead and follow the commands that I had left. If you were to go ahead and apply those things which I had left behind. These commands that I had given you. This is why we read that even the commands of those who are righteous scholars, they also fit the criteria and their adalat. We read in a hadith where Prophet says that if a person denies the command of a just adil faqih, it is as if he has denied the commands of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt. Denying the commands of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt is like denying the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this respect trickles down to even the scholars. And there was a discussion about taqleed, which I will skip. Inshallah, maybe in the coming nights I will speak and dedicate an entire discussion on it, because otherwise it will not be justified if I go ahead and open up that discussion. Number 4. So far we counted 3 things, or 3 objects over here. We spoke about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being the honor and the sacred nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that all holiness emerges from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second, we spoke about the book that He revealed, how that's sacrosanct as well. Number 3, we spoke about His emissaries, the Anbiya and the Aimma. Number 4, in Islam, parents also enjoy a special honor and respect. So after Allah, His book, His Anbiya and Aimma, the next in line who enjoys this honor and respect, who is considered to be holy in Islam, is parents. Your own parents. Your parents are given that respect and honor. 5 places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions His tawheed, His wahdaniyat, His oneness, alongside with being kind towards the parents. Moreover, being thankful towards the parents has come next to being thankful towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, Anushkur li wa liwalidiyya. Thank me and thank your parents as well. So respect towards parents goes to the extent that looking at them with love and mercy is a form of ibadat. So you look up to your parents with love and with mercy. And now with that, what have you done to me? That look. No, you look with the mercy and love and compassion towards them. Even if they were severe to you, they had punished you, they had done something which you didn't really enjoy, still turn around and look at them with a glance of love and mercy and respect. As long as you can do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers that to be an ibadat for you. A travel which becomes the means of dissatisfactions for parents is considered haram in Islam. Look at the honor of the parents. That if you are traveling for fun, and it is becoming dissatisfaction, not for Hajj or for Ziyarat, that is, justified. But if you're traveling just for fun and your parents are not satisfied with this travel of yours because their rights will be compromised, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this is actually forbidden for you. It's considered haram. One would offer full salat in such situations. So if you do end up traveling without listening to them, disobeying them, you've committed haram. What happens when you travel for haram? Namaz becomes full. You have to pray full namaz. So if someone travels with the intention to do something haram, na'udhu billah, I don't know how many of those people will be praying, but still, there's a masala in books of fiqh that a person who goes to steal, a thief who goes out to another town to go ahead and steal, if he stands up for prayers, he must perform full. His prayer qasr will not be applicable over there. But drawing from this, two people came to visit our eighth Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salatu wassalam. From where? From Medina to Tus, Marv, Mashhad, present day. You know the distance. At least 2,000 miles, if not more. So it's a long trip that they made. And they came to see Imam. Or they came for whatever, but they wanted to come and see Imam. They came and knocked on the door. Imam ﷺ did not accept it initially. But when Imam did accept, there are actually two separate events. These two people came, and when they were sitting with Imam, Imam said to one of them, your namaz is qasr, your namaz is full. He said, Mawla, we both came from the same city. We both came from Medina. We both came for the same duration. Nothing is different as far as our travels are concerned. Why? One is praying full, one is praying qasr. He said, because one of you came for my ziyarat, one of you came for the ziyarat of our enemy, Mamun. So when you have come for the ziyarat of Mamun because you had something to do with him, that is a travel in itself haram. And when your travel is haram, your namaz will be full. While you have come for our ziyarat, which is mustahab, your namaz will be qasr as a regular travel. So here we understand that whole scenario of someone who disrespects the parents, travels without their permission, or travels with their dissatisfaction. Right away, their salat on their travel would be full. In Islam, certain times such as Laylatul Qadr, we just passed by, are considered to be holy. Certain places such as masajid, I gave you the example earlier. Certain stones such as Hajarul Aswad. Or even you hear about aqiq. I'm not wearing mine right now. I don't want to give an example. But wearing aqiq is mustahab. Why? Because aqiq, that stone, was the first of the stones who bore witness to the wahdaniyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why wearing that stone is mustahab. So Hajarul Aswad is a stone definitely which has a lot of respect. You know, we make an effort to go ahead and kiss that stone. Even those who consider it to be, kissing other stones to be bid'at, they consider kissing Hajar Aswad to be a matter of what? Recommendation. Istihbab. That, go ahead and make an effort to go ahead and kiss Hajarul Aswad because Rasulullah has said. Waters like Zamzam, certain sands and the turbat of Imam Hussein, certain dresses like ihram are considered holy and sacred, and therefore they must be dealt with utmost respect and utmost honor. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I think I have a couple more minutes. Namaz is at 8:40. One more loud salawat, please. Certain valleys are considered to be muqaddas. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, when he was entering the valley of Tuwa, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to him? فَخْلَا نَعَلَيْقْ إِنَّكَ بِوَادٍ مُقَدَّسِ Tuwa. That remove your shoes, remove your na'al. So you're entering a very holy valley. So there are certain valleys that are holy from that aspect. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking Ulul Azm Nabi that don't enter without removing your shoes. So here we got the concept of removing the shoes when you enter, a place of worship, for example, such as masjid. It says, Inna ana rabbuka fakhla na'alayk, innaka bilwadil muqaddasi tuwa. And therefore certain places, as far as they're concerned, their respect is there. For example, Masjid-e-Haram is a holy site, therefore polytheists are not allowed to enter. Ayat of Quran says, Innamal mushrikuna najas, fala yaqrabul Masjid-al-Haram. Don't let them get close to Masjid-al-Haram. Places of worship in general, all the masajid are sacred. And if one enters, they must make sure that they are entering with purification, and therefore the laws are strict when it comes to masajid, and that's why we have dedicated a few rows in the back to be not masjid. We dedicated only the first 6 rows to be masjid, primarily for this reason, because we live in a part of the world where we have to, mingle with non-Muslims as well. And therefore, if they want to come inside our places of worship, at least they can come without this limitation being there. So a lot of people question why 6 rows are masjid and 3 are not, and why 2 rows are masjid and the rest are not. No, there's a reason, and there's a tawjih, and there's a wisdom behind it. Masajid are so sacred that people such as Ibrahim ﷺ, Ismail ﷺ, Zakaria ﷺ, Janab Maryam salamullah alayha are responsible for purifying the masajid. So next time someone tells you to clean a masjid, to purify it, to go ahead and do something, to pick up the garbage, to do anything of that sort for the sake of masjid, guess what? You are enrolling yourself in the names and the list of Hazrat Ibrahim, Hazrat Ismail, Hazrat Zakaria, and Janab Maryam salamullahi alayhim. So don't take it to be, why am I being asked to clean the masjid? I am so and so. I'm a CEO. I'm, a Moulana. I'm Hujjatul Islam. I am a PhD. I'm this, I'm a no. All of those titles are very good somewhere else. But when it comes to masjid, that cleaning it, because there's so much reward that is associated with it, it's the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, this is something which is a respect from it. And the last thing, and I'll conclude with it, a person with faith. Iman. I talked about it in the majlis the other day, so I won't spend too much time. The 6th is the person with Iman is also considered to be holy, sacrosanct, and honorable. So much so that the honor is considered more than the honor of Kaaba. Harassing, backbiting is haram. Defending him is wajib. And even after his death, digging his grave is not permissible. So all of these things are associated with mard mu'min, a person who has faith, person who has brought iman. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to be able to fulfill the requirements of these things which are considered to be muqaddasat in Islam. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.